Hello and welcome to this week's crypto update. As you can see, slightly different location this time, but nonetheless, lots to talk about in this week's the world of crypto. But it's very much being dominated by macro events, and of course, tariffs are very much the lead when it comes to all of this. We have seen, since last week, first all the tariffs were on, then they've been put back by 90 days. Then there was, 145% tariffs put on China. That's since been raised to 245%. The markets are swinging up and down based on this news, but it's all being led by the macro events and very much tariffs. Has that had the same effect on crypto? Absolutely. It's very much been volatile. There's huge uncertainty still in the market. So while the tariffs have been put off for 90 days, of course, there's expected negotiations with various countries during that time, including China. But every other country has been left with a base of 10% while those negotiations go on. Though the Chinese, it has not just been left steady, it's gone up to 245%. I think trying to put very much a lot of pressure on the Chinese in their decision making. So huge uncertainty in the market when, the market hates uncertainty. And we've seen significant pullbacks in, the Nasdaq, the S&P and so on. For the most part, Bitcoin has actually held reasonably well for this week. So that is interesting for sure. So what are we looking at? Well, in the crypto update, the first thing I want to touch on is macro versus the 4 year cycle. So I'm sure everybody knows in crypto at this stage that it tends to move in every 4 years. There's Bitcoin halving, and off the back of that, we see Bitcoin go through a process where the price tends to go up very strongly, and then money moves from Bitcoin into the major caps, so the ones in the top 10, makes its way down to the top 100, and then further down into further out the risk curve. And we can see in altcoin season where things really run heavy. This is something I'm going to do a video specifically on and ask the question, is the 4 year cycle still in play? Does it still follow, or has macro completely taken over? Certainly for the moment, macro is very much in charge. And what is that all about? Well, we can see that companies, they want Bitcoin, more and more Bitcoin. Bitcoin held by publicly listed firms climbed 16% in just quarter one alone of 2025. While the headlines are dominated, like we said, about tariffs and, of course, inflation, and whether tariffs will lead to higher inflation, one trend keeps flying under the radar. Public companies won't stop stacking Bitcoin. There is 57 billion worth of Bitcoin sitting on corporate balance sheets right now, which is huge. The largest first-time buyer, well, Hong Kong construction firm Ming Sing scooped up 833 Bitcoin. Even Rumble, the YouTube alt platform, joined the party buying 188 Bitcoin. But the wildest headline could be seen as HK Asia Holdings bought just one Bitcoin, but its share price nearly doubled in a single day off the back of that. That just goes to show that people that are buying into public companies, when they show that they're moving towards having a Bitcoin strategy, people see this as massively positive, and they're buying into their shares. So a huge sign that number one, companies are buying into it, and when they do, it has a hugely positive effect on their share price. So while the media stays glued to short-term noise, public companies are quietly turning Bitcoin into the treasury standard. And that is an interesting space. And that's why we keep saying, don't get pulled in by the noise and what people are saying about tariffs, and certainly keep an eye on it, be aware of them, but it's short term. And if you're investing an investor, it's long term. It's 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years. And if you view it that way, then this is all just noise. If you're a trader, that's different. We're talking to investors. The fundamentals of Bitcoin have genuinely never been better. I mean, things have just got stronger and better for Bitcoin over the last 2 months, 6 months, even 12 months. It's been gradually getting better. And certainly since Trump has come into office, it's an hugely positive administration. And things are moving really quickly there. Just this year alone, so in the last, 3.5 months, we've seen 17 pro Bitcoin bills have been introduced, 41 active strategic reserves across the US states. And these aren't short-term speculators. They're governments. They're not selling the cycle. They're not even trading. They're planning for decades. Bitcoin's future, it's never been brighter. If you consider prior to governments and institutions and companies buying into crypto, a lot of people were buying into it, and an awful lot of people will be buying it today with the idea of selling it maybe in 6 months' time or 12 months' time or whatever. Of course, there are long-time holders there too. But in the cycles we've seen, many people buy Bitcoin when it's down, and then when it goes up to high, all-time highs, they sell out. It's believed that's not going to happen here with these governments and institutions. They're buying it and hold it. They'll hold it right through, not for 6 months or 12 months, but a view to 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, and longer. And so, in that scenario, you would see that there's going to be less and less and less Bitcoin available. And on top of that, then there's more and more companies that have still not bought into the idea that will over time, and governments and institutions, and so the demand will be constantly increasing, whilst at the same time there's less and less available. What tends to happen in those situations? Of course, you would expect Bitcoin to reach all-time highs and far, far beyond that. The corporate Bitcoin wave is just getting started. According to Bitwise, public companies added 95,431 Bitcoin in just quarter one alone of 25, pushing total corporate holdings to 688,000 Bitcoin, worth over 57 billion. Top of that, we're seeing President Trump's executive director on digital assets just dropped another bombshell. Not only does the US want to buy more Bitcoin, they're now floating new ways to fund it. One of them, tariffs. We want as much Bitcoin as we can get, and we're going to find budget neutral ways to make that happen. Bo Hines, the executive director of digital assets for the US government. On top of this, we see the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, signals potential loosening of crypto rules for banks. He says, we took a pretty conservative approach up till now. I think there will be some loosening of that. Again, usually positive for crypto in general. While headlines scream inflation and volatility, the bigger shift may be happening in the background. The US crypto regulatory climate is quietly flipping bullish, and that could be a tailwind Bitcoin needs when the Fed finally blinks. So ultimately, what we're seeing here is things are getting more and more and more bullish for Bitcoin, and I'm specifically talking about Bitcoin. So, while we see uncertainty in the market for the last, month or so, and it's expected for the next few months as the US are negotiating tariffs with the various countries, by the end of the 30 days, you would expect there'll be a lot of positive announcements. At the same time, many people feel that as things are progressing, as long as inflation doesn't raise too high, people are seeing a lot of weakness in the jobs market, that this could be an occasion or open up the door for the Fed to start reducing interest rates. They introduce interest rate reductions, and at the same time, we come out with very positive news around the tariffs in, over the next 2 to 3 months, then this is highly likely to be really strong and very bullish for Bitcoin. What will happen with the altcoins after that? Well, that's something I'm going to cover separately in another video where we speak and go into in more detail macro versus 4-year cycle, because as the 4-year cycles would traditionally go, we should be moving into an altcoin season right now. It doesn't seem to be happening at this moment, but is it going to happen? And like I said, we'll cover that more at another time in another video. But lastly, I'm just going to touch on this. This is a gold. The black line here is gold price. The gold line is Bitcoin price. You can see here, there's 3 different places where we can see a big run up in gold. Look what happens just after gold hits its high. We see Bitcoin go on a run. Likewise, we see here in the second one, we see again a gold go on a really strong run. As it pulls back, Bitcoin goes on a big run. We've just seen gold go on a really big run. Is it about to have a pullback and Bitcoin goes for its next run? Or maybe gold is further to go? We'll see. Hope you found that useful. We'll talk to you all next week.